In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 3 of Freedom Fools. Today, you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. One of those Dr. Seuss type things for our quote of the day. Today, you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Wow. I wonder if they had that kind of stuff around when I was a kid. 508-996-0500 to get on to the show. Thank you. Hello.
Hey, Brian. How are you?
I am. How are you?
I'm okay. There's a new thing on South Park. They brought back South Park. They brought back King of the Hill. And what they have in South Park now is Satan's little boyfriend is not Saddam Hussein anymore. It's Donald Trump. And then they have something where Donald Trump's going to run nude through the desert or something like that. I don't know. It's I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if it's already been aired or.
Well, how do you know it's true?
They're going to air it, but I guess Trump's going through the roof, and they deliberately did it to set Trump off, and they're egging him on for another lawsuit. They're going to keep putting Trump on South Park with the devil. It's crazy.
Wow.
Are you there?
No, I'm absorbing.
Wow.
I'm absorbing what you're. You know, this is what we have become. I mean, I guess there's a joke behind all of that. I guess I'm not feeling it though. Are you?
I don't know what I'm feeling anymore, man. This is. I mean, you've seen more than me. You've had a longer life than me, but I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
As far as a president? Yeah.
When people say things about Ronald Reagan and stuff like that, yeah, maybe Ronald Reagan wasn't the greatest thing in the world. He's a hell of a lot better than what's around now.
I think, as I think about his solution and of his solution as far as being a president to the immigration issue was better than what we're going through right now. That's for sure.
My father told me Richard Nixon was better than what's around today, and that's my father was. Until he get caught, you got to remember he got caught. If he hadn't get caught, he probably would have went down as a good Republican president.
You see, Richard Nixon lied his way into the White House by saying he was going to get us out of the Vietnam War, and but in essence, he escalated things from the moment he got into office until about 1972, and then things started to de-escalate, and then no more offensive. So, in other words, going into North Vietnam, but that wasn't until 1973. And he was out of office in the summer of 74. So,
yeah, they pulled out most of the naval got pulled out. What 71, 72? I think the Marines get pulled out 71. Most of the Marines, unless the embassy, you worked at the embassy or something.
I think the embassy was certainly the embassy in what was now Ho Chi Minh City. That was evacuated on the final day. In 1975.
Yeah, it was. But I'm saying there wasn't any Marines over there for a couple of years, and then they went back for the evacuation mission or whatever.
I'll take your word on that. Korea, I don't really know it.
And as far as Korea, was still at the 42nd parallel since the early 1950s. That's where the wall is there, where they get it all divided.
That's where they march. Every day they do the North and the South, they do a little march right there at the gate, and they're high stepping and I guess goose stepping and whatnot.
Yeah,
and, to the close of business for the day. All right, man. Thank you.
Hey, take care. I
You
just thought
too.
I'd let you know that, though.
The South, I get. I'm not a South Park type of guy. Maybe that's on me. Thank you for the call, though. Let us continue. Hello.
I want to talk about the South Park episode with Trump.
You saw it,
It
huh?
is so lewd. It is unbelievably lewd that I was shocked. But then I started to laugh.
Because it's South Park.
So ridiculous. But unbelievable what they can do to a sitting president. You couldn't do that to Mohammed. The writers of South Park.
I guess
dead.
not.
They would be dead. I mean, he's completely nude. It's a real face of. They really took like a real face of Trump with the cartoon characters on the sides and everything. Unbelievably lewd. I saw it yesterday afternoon. I couldn't believe that they put that in the middle of the day.
On what channel?
61, the comedy channel.
Well, okay, it's a comedy.
It was. That was the second time I saw it. I saw it late at night once, and I says, "Ooh, this belongs at night." It was really, really shocking.
So why were you
watching
watching
people who don't
it?
like Trump, think if they ever did that to your family, you would be outraged.
I believe you, but I'm asking what made you want to watch it?
I followed some of the episodes of South Park because they do abortion. They do all the political scenes that they do. Meghan Markle. They do the news, and they do it funny. But they do. Those little kids pepper their language left and right. You have to have a tolerance for it, but it's funny. But this one I did not think was so funny, except one part. I had a giggle.
Okay.
Okay.
I get.
Yeah, you'll watch it.
You know what? Maybe I'll go check it out.
You could not play that in a classroom, let me tell you.
You know what? The way things are going right now, maybe you can.
Oh, no, I don't think so. It was really bad. And I'm a person that's a prude, but I can tolerate a lot, but I think this was uncalled for.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But that doesn't sound like a prude. A prude wouldn't really watch that. But who am I to judge? All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one more call, and then we're going to take a break, and then we will get Elijah D'Souza coming on to the show. Hello.
Hi.
Once again, I am not.
No, doggone it. No, you know what? I'm saying hi. Brian.
Ma'am.
I just wanted to say, I woke up 4 o'clock this morning with a sore throat.
I didn't do it. It wasn't. We weren't doing tongue hockey.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you sound like the guy you had to let go. I had the 2 windows open, but I don't know if it's this new COVID strain that's going around with the sore throat.
Were you sleeping with your feet hanging out the window?
No, but I had that window open, both of them, right over my head, and it was a great breeze all night.
Yeah, I was going to say because we had I would call it a refreshing breeze. Maybe that's why, and the big change in temperature, maybe that affected you.
I hope so. That new strain, though, I just hope it's not that. But as long as I keep taking sips, I mean, it hurts to swallow, but as long as I keep taking sips and keep my throat moist, it doesn't hurt so bad. But
whiskey works.
So here's the thing. I know you're going to have the gentleman on about the electric, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I was thinking I'm just going to ask you the question and you could write it down.
I'm writing it now. I got my pen.
Okay. So because I wanted to talk to you about this before, but now that finally the topic is, back up. So the woman I spoke with, she lives in Cow Parish, New Orleans, Louisiana. Not New Orleans, sorry. Louisiana, Cow's Parish, just like a cow. And they've got the smart meters. And she said that she had a bill, and it was her electric bill. Their electric is huge. People would freak out if they even know. But she had an electric bill of $141, and that was left over, and she had to pay that. she did go pay it. They installed that meter, those new meters, Wi-Fi meters, and they told her she had to pay that remaining amount as an installation fee. So I said, well, wow, that's the trickeration. I said, because how are they going to afford to do all this? I said to her that Maury Haley up here is just a snake with everything. And I said, so everybody out there, but you're supposed to make sure your very last bill before they come is paid. Otherwise, your bill, not only will you pay your electric bill, but you'll have to pay that amount for them to install.
I think there's an installation fee already.
We shouldn't have to pay an installation fee. This is
I will go over that with Elijah when we come back. I thought last time he was on, he was telling us that there is an installation fee.
Well, I know on my electric bill, and I had she looked at hers. Okay, so here I'm paying $1.50. Now you mentioned this, I think, like 2 months ago, almost, right? That houses are paying $5 a month, and I'm paying $1.50. So we're already paying for what we don't have. But the electric bill that we have on our bills, she was told out, and she had proof that she paid it. And they said, no, you paid it too late. Now that's going to be your installation fee, and you still have to pay the electric bill.
So I got to ask, was it Eversource down there that she has? Or a different company?
She's the young lady. I wanted her to call the show, but you were gone for those 2 weeks, so now she probably forgot about me. I'm hoping I can call. She worked for AARP. I'm hoping I could call her.
All right, well, try her.
Answer again.
Try her.
So for that, and I got one other thing to say. I did send you an app chat that had to do with the cops because my throat was way worse than this. I tried to call you and let you know that I sent an app chat. But also, if Tim's listening, I bought, I have 46 pairs of socks for the, he's going to Dash Laundromat tomorrow. Excuse me. And I bought socks for the donation for the people that are having this fun, the raising of socks and underwear. So I bought a bunch of men's socks. And if I'm sick like this, I won't be able to get it there. So I hope Tim is listening to your show, especially when it comes to the electric thing. I'm thinking maybe he might have his ears listening. And if maybe I'll call the laundromat. Maybe somebody can just come here and get them. I could just pass them over the balcony. That's no problem. Otherwise I just don't know. I'll just have to wait for Jim. Call him, or I could call him.
Feel better.
So I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, I hope so too. I hope this is just a fluke because I did do a lot of running around for 12, 14-hour days all this past week. So,
in the heat. All right. Thank you. Take great care. Bye now.
Thank you.
All right. Going to take a break. I'm going to get Elijah D'Souza on the phone, and then we will hear what's happening with the smart meters.
To change something, you must build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
Welcome back to Freedom Fools on WBSM. One of the things that hampers our financial freedom is excessive, and I do mean excessive, energy bills. We saw through the winter gas bills go right through the roof, and right behind them were the electric bills. And now we are bracing for Eversource to greet us with smart meters. Don't you love the name smart meter? I almost feel dumb by saying, well, why didn't we have these before? A person who has been on top of the whole smart meter ordeal and a lot of things dealing with Eversource is Elijah D'Souza. He is the founder of Citizens Against Eversource. I know he's going to change the name, but in this particular case, I think it's very appropriate since we are talking about Eversource and their smart meters that they plan on implementing. Elijah, good afternoon. Welcome to Freedom Fools.
Good afternoon, Brian. How are you today?
I am doing, if I were doing any better, there would be three of me.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's awesome.
So with that stated, when you were last on my Brian's Beat show, you had mentioned that there are going to be these smart meters, and they're supposed to be rolling out this summer. Well, we're smack dead in the middle of summer right now. What's the report card on the smart meters?
Well, the report card on the meters is they're taking a regionalized approach in this matter, and they're now predicting that the thorough transition to the smart meters should take, somewhere in the vicinity of 3 to 5 years. And they're starting now in Springfield. We haven't had any New Bedford residents get any of the notices in regards to the smart meter installation. And so we're waiting on that in this given area, whether it's New Bedford, Fairhaven, or Dartmouth. So they haven't started here yet, but watch your Eversource bills closely. And a lot of us don't, right? We open them, we're shocked by the prices, and we don't look at those little flyers, and we don't look at the little disclaimers on the bottom. But I caution everybody to look very closely, because then and only then will we have the opportunity to opt out.
Really? So it's going to... Well, what about people that don't get a bill? I mean, they at best they get a receipt that says, you paid it. Everything is done online now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're not diligently watching your account and going in to the notifications, at any given time, they can change the terms, right, within your bill and et cetera. And a lot of the notifications do go out, whether it's on your bill or it's online, but it's very quick, and it's a one-time thing. And if you don't see it, you miss the opportunity, in this case, to opt out. Like I mentioned, there was a member that tried to opt out preemptively because he says, oh, listen, I don't look at all the little flyers within the Eversource bill. They're always trying to get me to weatherize or do this or get solar or whatever it is. And so I typically throw that out. They tried to call in and opt out, and they were told that they couldn't opt out until they got the notice that Eversource was going to be doing it within their area.
That's kind of sly. So I reached out to Eversource because I wanted to find out when they're going to bring these smart meters to town, and I'm sure I had a couple of other questions. But I'm surprised because old Eversource and Instar, they would get back to me. This Eversource is not getting back to me. Should I be surprised, or should I just think that they know this is radio and people don't want these smart meters?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, even as recently as within the past couple of months, people have been, posting all kinds of bill discrepancies and issues with calling Eversource. Eversource double charging people on certain bills, and then when you call up to let them know, they'll tell you that they can't refund you, but they'll put a credit in your account. And even on the smart meter front, they've been inundated with calls from that, with calls because their bills are high. And so, as mediocre as Eversource functioned previously, I mean, it's just absolutely deplorable now in regards to their customer service and their follow-up to clients.
Well, I guess a credit would be okay, because you don't expect the big boys to want to give you money back. But I guess I would sit here and question the so-called credit. Are they going to remember down the road? Are they going to bill you and say you didn't pay? You know what I mean?
Well, the issue is, right, so some people have, the extra money that if Eversource mistakenly doubles charges them on their monthly bill, some people have the capability of waiting a month or two, and being able to utilize that credit they're going to give back of your own money that they pulled out erroneously. But some people just don't have that luxury. I mean, a lot of people are on fixed incomes, and they live month to month, and that's just the reality of America these days, unfortunately, with skyrocketing prices of everything because of inflation and everything else. And so when Eversource says, "Hey, listen, we messed up. We charged you twice, but don't worry, we're going to give you your credit back." Well, that's just not enough, because some people need that for medication, some people need that for food and water, and the other bills that they're, trying to scrounge together as much as they can to just survive, in this crumbling economy.
I get it. Elijah D'Souza joining us. He is the founder of Citizens Against Eversource. I had a caller earlier who says she's got a friend down in one of the parishes in Louisiana. And the friend had a bill for $141. Apparently, she paid it. And she's got a smart meter. And, or she's going to get the smart meter. And the company is going to be taking the $141 that she already paid, but said that she did not pay. And they're going to use it as a, what do you call that? Install charge.
So wait, so she's being charged for the installation of the smart meter itself?
Yes.
So, and that's Louisiana, and as far as how their legislature works and how they fund these things is going to be a little bit different, right? And so, in Massachusetts, of course, because we have an investor-owned utilities, or four of them, in Eversource, Unitil, National Grid, and Liberty Utilities, they function a little bit differently because they're allowed to operate as a monopoly, and because of that, they're state regulated, and so, you know, in this respect, they're allowed to roll all those prices into our infrastructure charges. So we're also getting charged for these upgrades to smart meters, except they don't itemize it specifically like these other municipalities and other states might.
So to be clear, I wanted you to clarify what you just said. We don't have an install charge, but there is a charge. It's just being rolled into another, like, I'm just going to say hypothetically, the transmission charge or the infrastructure charge or something like that.
Yeah, so the transmission and distribution charges, they'll get rolled into that. So installing the smart meters is something that our government, our legislature wants them to do, because with these smart meters, they'll be able to collect data on everybody's home and figure out what we use, right?
Well, but why does the legislature want that information? Why do I want the legislature to have that information?
Well, like I said, I believe in the land of the free, and I don't want anybody to have any of that information because that's my privacy. But the state has the net zero by 2050 goal, which means that, you know, they don't want to produce as more carbon than we're allowed to extinguish. And so, you know, they want Massachusetts to be a leader in not emitting more carbon than it produces. So that's net zero by 2050.
Okay, so all right, just hold it there for 1 second, Elijah, because a lot of this can be confusing, but what my stupid brain here detects is that there is a benchmark right now of what this net carbon number is. But is there anything that stops that number from moving, you know, as they say, moving the goalpost?
No, because at the end of the day, once they get to that number, there is also the possibility of some other cockamamie ideology from being pushed on us. I mean, this was established, in 2008 in the Green Communities Act as far as its objective to net zero. They want to make Massachusetts a leader in having some of the lowest greenhouse gas emissions in the country. The problem is that, number one, Massachusetts greenhouse gas emissions only accounts for 1% of the national contribution to greenhouse gases. So if everybody in Massachusetts were to cease to exist right now, the national greenhouse gas emissions would only reduce by 1%, which is negligible. And because of this goal, this negligible goal in regards to our contribution to greenhouse gases, the legislature is willing to allow your utility bills to double and triple because of this agenda to get to net zero by 2050. And so the smart meters is just one of those benchmarks within this process, because they first need to identify exactly what everybody uses so that they can start putting in peak rates to modify citizens' behavior in regards to how they use that energy. Because one way for them to lower greenhouse gas emissions is to lower energy usage and get people a little bit more cautious and afraid. And how do they do that? Well, they're going to raise prices. They're going to create peak pricing, and these smart meters will be a way for them to say, oh, wait, Elijah's doing his laundry at 5 p.m. when he got out of work. That's peak times. We're going to charge him double. And the smart meter is going to continuously report every 7 seconds to EverSource how much we're using as far as output, and that's going to be 24 hours a day.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, they're going to be able to tell when I'm doing my washer, or if I have an electric stove, when I've got the stove on. I can understand having a smart meter, but is it really that smart that it knows the particular appliance?
Well, the particular appliance is going to come through the analysis of the data, right? So EverSource right now is currently pitching to consumers, hey, when we get this smart meter, it's going to give you guys more control of your energy output. We're going to give you a nice fancy report. We're going to let you know when you shouldn't use your washing machine and when you should. And so they're really trying to package this up, really nicely, because they're afraid of all the bad press because of the radio frequencies that emits 24 hours a day. The concerns with health that many people report, especially people that have electromagnetic sensitivity disorders. And so, and then beyond that, the fact that, the infringement on privacy and the ability for them to then create peak rates based on when you use it. And so EverSource is doing a full course list, but what they're going to do with that data, they're going to analyze it, put it into the computers, have AI break it down. And so, typical, refrigerator might use X amount of voltage. So they'll have an idea based on the voltage as whether you're using a heavy appliance or a smaller appliance, or whether it's a low voltage light or something like that. So they'll have an idea whether it's an appliance or a light. How specific it will get, we'll soon see once the AI kicks in.
You brought up something, and I did see. I think it was through the Citizens Against EverSource website. There were people that were speaking at a hearing at the State House. And there was a young girl, if I recall correctly, who was speaking out against these waves, these frequencies that the smart meters apparently emanate. And I was a little perplexed because I thought this was supposed to be good for us, good for the environment. And yet I'm hearing that this girl is worried because it might kill her, basically.
Well, there are, some states now that have laws that are up in the legislature in regards to allowing people to opt out because of this electromagnetic sensitivity and because of, the ideas of health concerns for multiple different people. I mean, we know that these frequencies work differently in everybody, just like, a Tylenol pill might affect everybody differently. A lot of these frequencies may not be harmful for some, but are very harmful for others. And so, typically there are many studies that get done when these new technologies are put into play because, what they're most concerned with is their profits and their bottom lines. And these tools, these frequencies through these smart meters are going to be used to help their bottom line. And so, there are even some counties in California that have now adopted, the option for people to switch back to analog without any cost, and it's because of these health concerns. And so we know that typically California is on the forefront of this electrification. So they've had smart meters for longer than we have. So they're a better, experiment in the sense of what these smart meters do to the population, and it's been enough of a health effect that they've put in legislation now to allow people to opt out because of health issues. And so, Massachusetts could be intelligent, the legislature could be intelligent, Governor Moore could be intelligent, just look at California and say, wow, let's look into the future, let's look into California, let's see what this might have for us down the line, let's see what we can do to protect our citizens now. But they don't care, because at the end of the day, it's all about their agenda, and their agenda leads to campaign contributions by these NGOs and that's another.
Well, how about letting the people opt in instead of having to opt out?
Well, and that's the trick that they play on people. They'll send you, these little notices in the mail. They'll say, hey, listen, if you don't give us a call, we're going to opt you into this renewable energy supply. And, if you really look at it, the renewables right now, in comparison to the Eversource basic supply rate, the renewables supply rate is higher by, 20-30% than the Eversource basic. But what they do is they just tell you, hey, listen, we're going to opt you in to this more expensive energy supply unless you call us and tell us that, that we don't want it. And like we mentioned before, some people don't look at their online statements too thoroughly. I mean, we all have very busy lives, and they count on that. And it's a shame that the Attorney General allows these types of business practices, especially when it does not protect consumers, especially when a lot of the times consumers aren't really even aware until they, do a thorough examination of their bills.
Elijah D'Souza with us. I'm really bothered by some of this. We're talking opt out, and then it's going to cost more money to opt out. Again, another sleight of hand charge where seemingly we already pay to have somebody come out and read our meter. Now they're going to charge us to have somebody come out and read our meter. Why should that be an additional charge since they've already been doing it?
And that's the insane part. Like you mentioned, the meters do have the ability to emit a signal, and that's how things are, gauged now. Somebody drives around in the neighborhood, and the meter has about a couple of miles that it can transmit directly to someone in a vehicle. And so they already have been, driving around and doing this, and the costs that we're paying are based on them already doing this. And so when someone says, hey, I don't want a smart meter, and they tell you, hey, we're going to charge you $35 additional per month, you're like, wait a minute here. You guys have already been doing this. Why are you now charging me more to do what you've already been doing? And the reason the legislature allows it is because it's a behavioral modification technique, similar to how when you're out speeding and, a police officer pulls you over, you get a ticket, $200. That's that kick in the butt to say, hey, stop speeding. We're going to hurt you in your wallet. And this is the same thing, but with, like I said, your smart meters. They want you to have these smart meters. It's crucial to them. It's crucial for the type of control they want to have over our very lives. And so if you don't want the smart meter, they're going to try to punish you with a payment to make you comply. And like I said, there is some legislation out now in the Senate and in the House. It's on the committee. It's had its hearings to give citizens an option to opt out for free, similar to how they have in some of these other states.
And how's that going?
Well, it's sitting in committee. I mean, we know how things go within the committee. And for the viewers that don't understand, these bills got proposed. They were bipartisan bills. So they got proposed in the House. They got referred to the committee, which means that, a specialized telecommunications and utility commission will look at it because they're the experts within that field or designated experts by the legislature, and et cetera. So they'll look at it, and then it goes to hearings, and then they're allowed to make a decision on whether they recommend the bill to go to the House floor for a vote or not. So now for these particular bills, they're still waiting. They're in limbo there, and then they haven't made a decision. They can also drag their feet. Typically, they have to make a decision whether they recommend the bill within 60 days, but they can ask for an initial extension, which is 30 days, and continue to drag their feet and ask for extensions. But the clincher is that even if they recommend the bill to the House floor, that recommendation goes to Mariano, the House Majority Leader, and Mariano has all the power to say, you know what, even though you guys recommend it, we're not going to put it to the floor. But even if Mariano listens to his committee, his panel of experts, and says, all right, we're going to put it to the floor for a vote, they could just vote no. And because, like I said, this state leans to the left, and because the left gets the majority or a large portion of its campaign contributions from the clean energy movement, they're beholden to them instead of the taxpayers, which they should be. And so,
I'm listening to all of this, and I'm actually getting pissed off because once again, it sounds like our lawmakers, our Bacon Hill lawmakers, have done us in, and it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not like we can put solar panels up on our roof and not connect to the grid, so we can be rid of Eversource. They even get you on that.
You're actually not allowed to in many municipalities within Massachusetts. You're actually not allowed to not be connected to the grid, and so that's a little caveat.
Whoever heard? I mean, who in their right mind would pass a law that says that you've got to use the public utility for your electricity?
Well, what happens is the typical consumer does not contribute copious amounts to these lawmakers and these legislatures. And, these utility companies and many other big corporations have lobbyists. And lobbyists go there and they wine and dine them, and they make promises of contributions when they're up for re-election, et cetera. And how can the average taxpayer compete with a utility company who has lobbyists that have their hands in the pockets of all these legislatures?
So you know what, Elijah, you just brought into my head, and I think, first of all, you're correct. To your point, maybe we, the people, have to start our own lobbying group and say, okay, we'll chip in $5 a month. I know to some people that might be extravagant, but we'll chip in $5 a month, go out and get a lobby license, and then we'll go lobby the Bacon Hill lawmakers and say, we don't want this. They do listen to the lobbyists. So maybe that's what we have. We have to form a We the People lobby.
And you're absolutely right. They're going to listen to whoever is giving them the money. But I will admit, even though, like I said, a lot of groups, a lot of organizations, a lot of movements, they do this very thing. And it's basically, whoever gives these legislators the most money, they're the ones with the loudest voice. And that would work. But it breaks my heart that the American, system has been reduced to who's going to give these legislators the most money so we can buy ourselves a shred of dignity.
If other people can buy votes, we can buy votes.
No, we can too, but I feel like the legislators win that way because we're actually enabling this bad practice of allowing our systems, our executive branches, to be controlled by money.
I hear you. Let's then twist it around. We can always try to vote the bums out, but then the new bums become like the old bums.
Well, the thing is, the system is there, independent of who sits in the chair. The system is entrenched and engraved, not only within, the Massachusetts legislature, but, nationwide. I mean, that's how it works. If a good-hearted man or a woman says, hey, you know what, I want to join the legislature, I want to try to make a difference, well, you're blindsided by the fact that, well, you better have a good amount of cash, because it's not about the size of your heart when it comes to these campaigns and getting elected. It's about the size of your wallet. And like I said, this is a problem that's endemic to, I imagine, the majority of the world in regards to how much corruption has been allowed to get within our ruling bodies. But that's a bigger conversation, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. What I see right now, Elijah D'Souza is with me for a couple of more minutes. If you'd like to ask him a question or two, you're more than welcome to do so. 508-996-0500. Less the thought of trying to start our own lobby group. I think what is job one is to make sure these meters, or at least people that don't want the meters, don't have to pay to not have those meters. What do we do?
Yeah. Yes, and absolutely. And like I said, so, we talked about the status within our executive branch. And of course, right now, we're very heavy on the left, right? And, we understand that a two-party system can be very flawed, of course, even when there is balance, but even more when there isn't. And so, one of the best things we can do is in 2026, we can try to restore some semblance of balance to the legislature by getting that disparity a little more centered, which means getting some of the right in there. Because within a balanced legislature, they tend to argue it out, and they're forced to negotiate with each other in regards to that. But like I said, for now, as far as your smart meter is concerned, the best thing you can do is make sure you keep an eye on your bills. When you get that notice, opt out. Yes, you will be hit with a fee for having opt out, and that fee will be recurring monthly, but you're going to save yourself from the intense radio frequencies. You're going to conserve your privacy, and when they enact the new peak pricing for these utilities, you're not going to be within that envelope because they won't know when you're using your energy. So you could end up saving more money than the monthly maintenance fee for having opted out. And of course, we still have the Hail Mary of the legislature actually passing a common sense bill and allowing people to opt out without a fee, because this is America after all, and we should have the freedom of choice.
Well, absolutely. I want something solid that says that we need to either opt in, or we need to know more than somebody just putting something tucked in the bottom of a bill that says that we can opt out of this, because it sounds like it's going to be more problematic with it than without these smart meters.
And like I said, that would be, on the Attorney General's shoulders to force these utilities to operate differently in a way that protects consumers instead of takes advantage of consumers who aren't meticulously watching their bills. But like I said, we know that the Attorney General is in lockstep with Maura Healey in the legislature, and whatever is better for them, that's what they're going to do. I mean, like I said, we noticed the ballot initiative question that got passed there in this recent election, and we're 8 months down the line and we still don't have an audit of the legislature. And the Attorney General has the responsibility of enforcing that. The Attorney General has the responsibility of making sure that the legislature complies, but she's doing nothing of the sort. And so in a world where these roles and these elected officials do what they were intended to do when we elected them, well, then, these things will get done. But unfortunately, they're beholden to their brethren, they're beholden to their counterparts, and they're beholden to their donors and the votes that they want to fabricate.
So I guess it's silly to think that we're all just not going to pay our Eversource electric bill because they'll cut off the electricity. Then what do we do? I guess it's like the starvation in the Gaza. If you can last and last and last and last, then through attrition, you probably beat the utility. But how many people can really last and last and last?
Well, like I said, Brian Shortsleeve, who's running for governor, his position is that he wants to remove all the delivery fees. All the state mandated fees from the delivery portion of your bill. And that would be about a savings of probably 40 to 50% for most people if we were to get elected into, the Massachusetts gubernatorial seat. And so, I mean, like I said, 2026, we're probably, 15 months away from, the next election. And so, like I said, that is quite a bit of time, but it's a good amount of time for us to help this gentleman with this campaign, for us to help our friends get registered, our friends and family, and make sure.
And then what happens when he doesn't come through, or the legislature doesn't let him, or the next people that are chosen for the Department of Public Utilities, the commission board, they don't follow through with it, or the legislature does not help out with it?
Well, and like I said, so we currently have some ballot initiatives that we're working on. We have to have things submitted by, within a couple of weeks. And that's going to be really tight. But you're right. What happens when we pass these initiatives? What happens when we get a new governor? What happens when we get a new legislature and they still don't do what the people want? And you know what? And all we can do is the best we can do. And this is a war. And so when they change their strategy, we change our strategy and we pivot, right? And that's what you do in a war. And, as things get more and more treasonous within our own very government, well, of course, equal strategy is going to be needed on the side of the citizens to match, the increment force that they're putting, on their constituents.
I'm getting pissed off listening to this. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much, Eliza. Keep us abreast of what's going on with this, because I think come wintertime, when people are using the electricity to help fire the gas or the oil, that's when it's really going to penetrate.
Well, I'll say this. Gas bills, they already submitted a request to increase your gas bills by 43% for this upcoming November. A lot of people have already gotten notices that their electricity rates are going to be going up this August now. And so, like I said, it isn't going to get better anytime soon. But hopefully, as it gets worse, people wake up to the fact that we need to do different things if we want different results.
Got you on that. I'm going to have to let you go with that. Elijah D'Souza, Citizens Against Eversource, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on to the program today.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
It is indeed our move. I'll be back for Barry at 12 on Monday, 78 in Wareham, 80 in Swansea, 80 in New Bedford. Adios.
Traveling around from town to town, sometimes I think I'll settle down, but I know I'd hunger to be free. Roving's the only life for me. Adrift the world is my friend. I'm traveling along the road without it.
When your company earns unlimited 2% cash back on all purchases with Capital One, that's serious business. So Stephen at SandCloud got a serious business card, the Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One.
We used our 2% cash back to help build our retail presence.
Savvy, Stephen.
And we get big purchasing power, so our business can spend more and earn more.
The Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/SparkCashPlus.